We've got another applique on tap for today, and it's nautical themed. We do get requests to make nautical themed things here, and the anchor is a super cute little addition to just about anything. And at the end of the show, I'm going to show you what it looks like on a dishcloth, of all things. Why not decorate a dishcloth? It's the holiday gift giving season coming up soon, and anything goes as far as homemade gifts are concerned, but don't forget about household stuff. People often forget about lowly things like dishcloths, and they are super handy, and nothing says that they can't be absolutely adorable too. So we're going to make an anchor, and I'm going to show you how you can cutify a dishcloth. And the dishcloth is actually a tutorial we've already done here on the show, and I will put a link in the description box below, and you can go and check that out. Super simple, nothing uber fancy or difficult, and this just makes it. So this little guy here, this little, well, I'll take it off. I'm not actually wearing this. This cute little anchor applique is made in one piece. So we are going to exercise your counting brains today. So get ready to count with me, get ready to do some simple stitching, but lots of counting, and we're going to make an anchor. So without further ado, let's cast off our anchor and head over to the craft table. For today's applique, I'm using some cotton scraps. You don't need very much, maybe not even 10 grams. This is a very small applique project. But a word, if you're going to be putting this on a previously created project that's acrylic, like you used acrylic yarn to make a blanket, use acrylic for your applique. I'm making mine in cotton today because I'm putting it on a cotton washcloth. So try to match your yarn to the project that you've already created if you're adding this applique to a created project that you've already done. Always try to match up your yarn types so that when you wash it later, you won't have any minor tragedies. This is a worsted weight yarn, so it's a size 4. Therefore, I'm using a 4.25 millimeter hook. This hook is comfortable in my hands with this size of yarn. You also need a pair of scissors and a yarn needle, and that's it. Once you've got those things assembled, we can get started on making our anchor. Your anchor will lie flat like this once you've given it a light steam blocking at the end. So don't expect your anchor to lie flat right off the bat. It's going to want to twist a little bit, and that's normal. And I wanted to tell you that right off the bat, just so you don't get frustrated or confused or think you're doing something wrong. You're not. There's a lot of chaining and a lot of slip stitching in this little project, so your work is going to want to twist a little bit. So remember to be patient and don't feel you need to speed. This is a quick little project, but it does want to twist on you, so be ready for that. We're going to start with a slip knot. And make sure it moves around comfortably on your hook. And to begin, we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There's your chain of 6. We're starting at the top here, so we're going to join our last chain with our first chain with a slip stitch to make a large loop. So grab your yarn, pull it back through everything, and now you've got your starting loop. We're going to work into the loop, so not the individual stitches, right through the whole loop. So we're going to single crochet 10, so 10 single crochets into the entire loop. And when I say into the loop, I mean this. So you take your hook, actually we're going to chain 1 to start, I'm getting ahead of myself. Chain 1 to start because we are single crocheting. Then you take your hook and go through the loop, pick up your yarn, and single crochet. So you're not working the individual chains, you're just working right through the whole loop. And I'm also going to work over my little short tail just so it disappears. So into this loop you're going to work 10 single crochets. 4. Once you've single crocheted 10 into your circle, you're going to join with a slip stitch to the very first single crochet. So this is just going to complete our little circle. There we go. And you can see we're pretty much the top is done. Now comes all the chaining and slip stitching. There's a lot of counting here, so I want you guys to be patient and count along with me, and that way no one's going to get lost. We're going to start by chaining 3. 1, 2, 3. These 3 chains are the neck, the little sort of chain space between the bottom of our circle and where our first little crossbeam begins. So these 3 chains are the neck. We're going to begin our first crossbeam, so we're going to chain an additional 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If it helps, hold your ring. You're looking at your anchor upside down now. These 3 chains are the neck, and these 5 that we just did are going to start the first little arm. Now we're going to slip stitch. You're going to skip the first chain from the hook, which is this one, identify the next one, and we're going to slip stitch into it. So you take your hook, go right through that chain, grab your yarn, and pull it back through everything. You're going to slip stitch into the next 3 chains. So there's 1, 2, and the last one. So all together we've chained an additional 5 off the neck of our anchor, and we've slip stitched across 4 of them. So you skip the first chain from the hook and you've slip stitched into the next 4. That brings us back to the bottom of that first chain 3. That's the first top half of the anchor. So if I flip it around, you've completed this top circle, a bit of the neck, and the left arm. So that little short arm right there. Now we're going to continue. So we're going to continue all the way down. We're going to create sort of the torso now of our anchor, and that's an additional 5 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So just like we did with the neck, we've created another 5 chains that are going to eventually be sort of the torso, and we're going to work off of these chains now. So ignore these chains. Now we're going to chain an additional 10. So in total, from the bottom of your first arm, you'll have 15 more chains. The first 5 are torso, and the next 10 are going to be sort of one of the big side bottoms of the anchor. So here we go. We're going to chain another 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You should have something that looks something like this. Doesn't look very anchory yet. Kind of looks like a weird stick man, as a matter of fact. But that's okay. We have 5 chains along the torso, and then the rest of these chains are going to begin to create the big part, the important part of the anchor. So that's 10 on top of the 5 for the torso. But let's just focus on the end for now. You're going to skip the first chain from the hook, and into the next chain, so the second chain from the hook, you're going to single crochet 3 times. So pick up a loop. Try not to split your yarn like I am. There we go. And single crochet. single crochet twice more into that same chain. 2 and 3. Now to complete the little ends, and this is what we're creating here, is the little sort of end, we're going to slip stitch into the same space, so into the same little chain. By this point it's kind of a hole. You're just going to slip stitch. There. That's the end of the arm, or the big leg, or the second arm, or I'm not even sure what these things are called. If you know what the parts of an anchor are called, if you could leave them in the comment boxes down below, because I'd love to know. Okay, we've completed the bottom, or the end, so the big tip point that's supposed to dig into the ground when it lands on the bottom of the seafloor. And now we're going to do some more single crochet. So we're going to single crochet into the next 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right, now we're going to do a little counting. Here's the arm, so the first little short arm, and we need 5 chains in the abdomen. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This little chain that we finished our 8th single crochet into, we're going to work 2 more single crochets into. So in the same place that you did your last single crochet, work 2 more. 1 and 2. It's very important that you have 3 total single crochets in that stitch that will now eventually be the bottom of your entire anchor. So you want to make sure you've got 3 single crochets in there. So there's sort of the arm end with the big kind of knobby thing. Sort of we single crocheted back to the very bottom, which is now the bottom of our anchor. If I hold it right side up, you can see what I'm talking about. And now we're going to make the next arm. Now we're going to chain, so we're chaining again. Chain 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're going to repeat what we did at the end of the first big arm. So you're going to skip that first chain, you're going to identify the next chain, and you're going to single crochet 3 into it. Pick up a loop and single crochet. Work 2 more single crochet into that same chain. So you just sort of work in this tiny little space. That's why I say you got to remember to be patient with these. These are funny little projects, and there's lots of chaining and counting, but if you go slowly, it'll work out. And now we're going to single crochet into each of these chains all the way back. And remember, when you get, this is the last chain that you're going to work into. So you see how that's a single crochet, and this is the chain next to it. You should have 7 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 chains left, which means you're going to single crochet 7 times. So identify the first chain, and oh wait, did I single? You know what I didn't do? I didn't slip stitch. We got to slip stitch back into that same place to complete that little knob on the end. I keep getting ahead of myself. Okay, now we're going to single crochet. So we're going to single crochet into each of the 7 chains that are left along this final arm. Bear with me, it's a lot of counting. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. This should be what you're looking at. After you've sort of single crocheted back across that arm, you should have worked a single crochet into that last chain, and then the thing that's right next to it is the 3 single crochets that are at the bottom of our anchor. So into this little space that is the same place where those 3 single crochets were created, you're going to slip stitch. So you're going to just put your hook through that little space and slip stitch. And what that's doing is it's connecting the 2 arms. So the 2 arms are now connected and they're sitting at the bottom of our anchor. And this is what I mean by your work is going to want to twist and turn and spin. So if you have to put it down and flatten it out on the table every so often, please feel free to do so. You'll notice that it doesn't look anything like the one I've got on the work mat right now, because this one hasn't been steam blocked. So it's going to look a little funny at first, but don't worry. It will look like an anchor when we're done. Okay, now we're going to work our way back up to the top of our anchor. You should have 5 chains between the bottom of your anchor and the bottom of your first little arm. And you're going to slip stitch into each of those 5. So no more single crochet, we're just slip stitching. And that isn't always easy when your work wants to spin and flip around on you. So take your time and try not to get frustrated. Okay. I slip stitched into the 5 chains between the bottom of my anchor and the bottom of the first little arm on my anchor. That little space that was created when I worked off that chain and made the first little arm, I'm going to slip stitch into that. So take my hook and put it right through that space and slip stitch. So if you're counting along with me, we have slip stitched a total of 6 times now up the body of our anchor. So there were 5 chains to work in here, and then we slip stitched a sixth time into the chain that first little arm is worked off of. And by doing that, we're kind of joining everything together. Now we need to make the other little arm on the other side. So we're going to chain 4 this time, not 5, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You're going to skip the first chain from the hook, identify the next chain, and slip stitch into that. There we go. Then you're going to slip stitch into the next 2. And that will bring you back to the middle of your anchor. There we go. And you see this big space here? This is the middle stitch that we worked off the first arm and then worked down and back up into. You're going to slip stitch into that space as well. And that will connect your 2 little arms together. There we go. Okay, we're nearing the finish line. You should have 3 little chains across here, and try not to let your work twist so much that you can't identify your chains. But essentially, you want to work 3 more slip stitches up those chains. So 1 slip stitch into each chain. We're heading back up to our round thing. I really don't know the names of any parts of an anchor. Can you tell I don't live by the sea? And then just to finish it off, we're going to slip stitch into the bottom of our ring that we began with. So into any of those stitches right there at the bottom, just slip stitch. And it might look a bit twisty and gnarly. Grab your scissors, snip your yarn, and you're just going to fasten off. There. Okay. We are getting close. Now you'll see, if I hold the 2 side by side, that this part looks a little bit bigger than this part. It's because we have one more thing to add onto our anchor to make it look like an anchor. Alright, now we're going to just fatten up this bottom part. You can take a moment and weave in any of your tails just to get them out of your way. I like to do that as I go. And we're going to start with another slip knot. There we go. Okay, a little more counting now, everybody. Pick up your anchor and flip it upside down and identify that middle bottom part. This is where you should have 3 single crochets. So 3 single crochets worked into this little bottom spot here. You're going to identify the middle one. So that would be the stitch that is right at the very bottom point. So identify that stitch and then count 5 backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you want to count those 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Take your hook and put it through that 5th stitch. We're going to join our yarn with a slip stitch. So grab the yarn and pull it back through everything. There we go. And now, a little more counting. We've joined with a slip stitch in that 5th stitch counted from the middle. Into the next stitch, we're going to slip stitch. So one more slip stitch. Just ignore your tail for now. We can weave those in afterwards. Ta-doo. Now we're going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches. So single crochet, we're not chaining or anything, we're just going to start single crocheting. So single crochet into the first one, single crochet into the next one, and single crochet into the last one. So to recap, you picked the middle bottom stitch, counted 5 away from it, joined your yarn with a slip stitch in that 5th stitch, slip stitch into the next stitch, and without chaining began to single crochet. So you single crocheted into the next 3. That brings us to that middle bottom stitch. Into that middle stitch we're going to single crochet 3 times, and this is going to keep that nice bottom kind of corner looking shape. So 3 single crochets into that bottom piece. There we go. And now we're going to do the exact same pattern in reverse up the other side. So you're going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches. Now remember, you're working the bottom side of chains, so it's going to feel a little different than working these stitches. So try to make sure that you catch, this would be a sort of a single crochet, so that would be like a regular looking stitch, this first one. And the next 2 are going to be the bottom of sort of chains. So pick a piece of it, and then pick the one directly next to it. So that's the 3 single crochets. So you've got 3 in the center bottom, and then you've single crocheted 3 times away from it. And the last 2 things we're going to do is slip stitch. So you're going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. But remember, these are the bottom of chains, so it's going to feel a little different. So just stick your hook in wherever it seems to make sense. And that's it. Now you can snip your yarn and fasten off. There we go. Give it a nice tight tug, like that. And then you can weave your ends in. Now it looks much more like an anchor. There you go. Now you can go ahead and give it a little steam if it's driving you nuts because it wants to roll around or twist on you. But you can completely avoid that step if you're about to stitch this onto something. So if you're ready to stitch it onto your project, you can use the same yarn. So you can use yarn, the same yarn you made your applique out of, and your yarn needle, and you can sew it on using that. Or you can actually use a single, like a thread and needle. It's completely up to you. But if you use a needle and thread, remember to make your stitches a little on the loose side so that there's a little bit of play between the big, thick applique, comparatively speaking, and your project. But there you go, everybody. That is how you crochet an anchor. And that is how you make an anchor applique. And this is what it can look like on something as simple as a dishcloth. I've gone ahead and I've used cotton for my anchor. I've made a cotton dishcloth, and I've made them in contrasting colors, nautical colors obviously, blue and white, really classic. And I went ahead, sewed it on using my yarn needle and some of the same cotton yarn that I made the actual anchor out of. And just to be interesting, I gave it a little bit of rope too. And that's just a simple little wee bit of pick up stitch and then tie a knot in behind it. Nothing very difficult at all. It's just running stitches running around the anchor. So you can do this too. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm going to post a link to the super simple dishcloth tutorial in the bottom, the description box down below, and you can check that out. And if you are in the mood for some really quick to make gifts, you can whip up a whole pile of these cute little dishcloths, and why not put something like an anchor on it? We've got a whole bunch of nifty little appliques on the show now. And we have a playlist for appliques. You can check that out by heading over to our channel homepage. Just click on my name underneath this video. It'll take you directly to the channel homepage. And from there you can go to the tabs at the top. There's videos and playlists and a few other little things. And the playlist page will have our applique playlist. It's got all of our applique tutorials in it. So you can check that out too. That's it. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. We will see you again really soon on the Jayda InStitches show. Until then, happy crafting, have a wonderful and safe week, and we will see you soon. Bye!